This is really about who controls blackness, who controls the definition of blackness. Okay, Kanye West is a culture icon. It goes to the White House. President Trump meets with him. They have what Don Lemon called a minstrel show. they had this thing, this stream of consciousness thing from Kanye West. Much commentary. Here's what I want to say as a provocative observation. The issue is not that Kanye West thinks that Trump is great. The real issue is that Kanye West thinks that America is great. Let me explain, and I'll be brief. The personality stuff is not the real story. The business of Kanye West, is he mentally ill? Trump, does he care about Black people? I wish that he cared more. The issue is the symbolism of Kanye West, a successful cultural entrepreneur, and African-American icon, entertaining the possibility that there could be some way of thinking about being Black politically that didn't fall within a certain template, well laid down, okay? I'm not just talking about elections and is Trump gonna get 30% of the Black vote or something like that. I'm talking about the narrative. I'm talking about how you think about it. What are the interests of Black people? In this moment of nationalism, I will not go on very long, John, but thank you for allowing me this much. In this moment of Make America Great Again, of the assertion of American interests, where do Black people fit in, okay? Now, there's a certain presumption about that afoot in the land. It is that Black people, not only do they vote Democratic, but their alienation from the Republic is a fundamental defining feature of the failures of conservatism and the failures of America, okay? Now, are Black people in fact so alienated, all right, on the immigration debate? Okay, it's a serious question about what the interests of Black people are relative to the interests of Latinos within the context of the Democratic Party coalition. With respect to teachers' unions, I could go on for a long time. There's violence in the cities. How you think about it, what's the narrative, anti-cop, blah, blah, Black Lives Matter. The stakes are actually huge, okay? So Kanye West is a camel's nose under the tent, not about whether he likes Trump or Trump likes him, but about whether Black people should like America. That, you know,
but what is,
or whether we should be content, to be a part of the resistance. I'm sorry, let me draw the question. Thank you for giving me as much time. Let me draw the question as sharply as I can. For African Americans, what are our interests over the short, intermediate, and then longer term, okay? In terms of the structures of American government and power, all right? Now we fit within a certain liberal constituency and it cuts across the board. The abortion rate is twice as high amongst Blacks as it is amongst whites in the country. I didn't say anything other than state of fact. Is it possible that African Americans, in reflection upon that issue, it's a very religious community by tradition. Secularism does not speak for African America, okay? So where do we fit within patriotism? The athletes take a knee. That's a certain attitude. You think of John Carlos and people in Mexico City in 1968. What about that iconography and that narrative? That's not natural to me, that there's some continuum of Black people's being in America between 1968 and 2018 that leads to a raised fist in the air as the most authentic expression of my Blackness. Why should I stand in alienation from my country when it's a great and a rich country and I have a birthright here? Why would I devalue that by taking a petulant contra in resistance ad nauseum and ad infinitum toward my relationship to my country? These are questions that I want to pose. These are the questions in my mind that are raised by Kanye West going into the Oval Office. Don Lemon talked about it's a coon show. He's missing the boat, in my opinion. I mean, you know, people say they're done with Kanye West because he's kind of betrayed. I mean, that's so superficial, in my opinion.
Well, the reason a certain kind of person likes to stand against their country in that way is because we humans really do seek the warmth of group membership. And it can be hard to feel that group membership in America because we have such a diffuse and abstract mission as Americans, the idea being that you can come and succeed. To be American is to be somebody where it can be kind of obscure to think exactly what that is culturally. As we often say, you don't know you're American or what it is to be American until you go abroad. That's not something anybody would say who was born in Germany or who was born in Russia or who was born in Japan. It's hard to feel that American really embraces you, even if you're white. And so one way to feel a sense of group membership, if you're a Black person, and if you can't already feel it just in being a Black person with all of the distinctions that involves from the mainstream, but that can be hard because we're trained to think of what makes Black people distinct as stereotypes. So try to talk about the food, you're stereotyping. Try to talk about dancing, you're stereotyping. So one way to feel like you're part of something is that kind of alienation. You've always got the reassurance within the group that you're okay despite the fact that the white man out there doesn't like you. That feels good to people. So I think that's part of it. But Glenn, I want to backtrack a little bit. I know we need to leave the Kavanaugh thing, but I do have to say this. Talk about his family. The reason that I would not want to meet this man in the aftermath of all this is that taking it as a proposition that he did do these things, and I don't know what you really believe, but I know that he did those things. The fact that he has sat with his wife and his children and let them think that all of this has just been lies, that he's just had a conversation with his wife where he actually told her that all this wasn't real, and especially his kids, makes me utterly contemptuous of him as a family man. My daughter is 6. My daughter will be 10 in 4 years. That idea that his daughter said, should we pray for them? And he says, oh yeah, baby, boo, 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 as if these are just evil people. If my daughter now were in a situation where I was raked over the coals like this and it were revealed, I'm pretty sure I never did anything like that. But if something horrible I did in the past was revealed, not only would I admit it, but I sure as hell would not look into my little girls' faces and lie to them and tell them I didn't do it. I would say that as you get older, sometimes you slip, just like you two do, and I did back then, and I'm sorry about it. I would think my 6-year-old would understand, and by the time she was 10, it would be the most arrant disrespect of my progeny to sit there and lie to her and make it seem like they're these evil people out there. That's misleading her into the same kind of barbaric thinking that has so many people listening to Fox News. Anyway,
so
my final
may
view.
I just observe, you made your point at length. I just want to observe this briefly. The structure of your point is about something that he may or may not have done. In my opinion, you don't know, but you say you do know that he did it. I don't know how you know. We've been over that. So you think he did it. So, but that's in dispute, okay? And in fact, I think you would have to say that the net weight of the jury of public, political, and so forth opinion is that he's on the United States Supreme Court. And then you say, not knowing that he did it, but you're assuming that you're right that he did it. Given that your assumption that you're right is right, that he did it, that you think is right. Now you're going to elevate a second indictment. Now he's the kind of person who did this thing and then did something else. And I just want to say the second order hall of mirrors that you're taking me into in terms of constructing these sophistic arguments on behalf of this guy being a bad guy. So he's the kind of axe murderer.
You lied to him.
Having had found no axe, no blood, no body. But someone says they saw him in the woods with an axe and he's an axe murderer. He's the kind of axe murderer who puts his children to sleep at night. It takes my breath. So we agree to disagree. What do you have to say about Kanye and about my more general points about African-American relationship to American nationalism?